What's up, guys? Welcome to Newswave Week in Review. Every Saturday we like to go back, take a look at the week of Newswave, and see what you guys had to say in the comments. If you missed any of them, well, this is a good way to get caught up. And again, we have a lot of fun seeing what everyone responds to, kind of the different topics that we had. And there was a lot of stuff, including the Video Game Awards, this past week that saw some pretty big reveals and some pretty big winners. So let's get started. On Monday, we talked about EA's further descent into loot boxes, with UFC 3 having these as a big part of the gameplay. EA is already in hot water for what happened with Battlefront 2, and it seems that all of their games will include these loot boxes in their games going forward. It's important to note that last year's UFC also had gameplay affecting loot boxes, but EA figured they could slip them in this year despite the backlash. Nihon Falcom president mentioned that their games were specific to PC and PS4, not so much for the Switch, due to the audience preferring high-end hardware. Rich Files says that Falcom press release was absurd. If a person has a high-end PC, they laugh at the PS4. The people I know with Switches, myself included, have a Switch and a PC, because the PS4 is just a weak PC with restrictions. The Switch is the one home console / portable that is genuinely unique. It has titles unavailable on PC and is portable. While that's technically correct, the PS4 also has games that are unique to the PS4. The one that really, out of the three, that struggles in this area is the Xbox, but the PS4 has plenty of stuff that's not on the PC. Now, I will say, they seem a little lost with this press release, because the big thing here is they've released their games on the Vita as well, and well, the Vita is not exactly a powerhouse, and the Switch would be the likely successor to the Vita at this point, since the Switch is the next most powerful handheld after that. And honestly, at this point, I do talk to a lot of PC enthusiasts that like the idea of the Switch and seem very interested in the Switch, mostly because, yes, there are a lot of games on there that are just not available on the PC, specifically Nintendo-themed games. The Switch will appeal to a lot of people who don't need it for third party. They just want to buy it for Nintendo, and that's fine. That's kind of what people have been doing with things like the Wii and the Wii U. You buy Nintendo stuff for Nintendo games. You don't usually buy a Nintendo product so you can play third-party games on it. That's why the Xbox, the PS4, or PC is out there. The PS4 just happens to have quite a few exclusives that technically rival Nintendo's. So while I agree with you that his statements with high-end hardware for why they're going with PS4 right now is kind of a dumb statement, I think at this point, more than likely, they're loyal to the Sony fan base, because it's the largest fan base when it comes to systems to this point. Massive lead on the Xbox, massive lead on the Switch. Obviously, the Switch just came out, but that's where you go if you want your best shot at selling your game, because there's the numbers are there, right? There's so many people there to sell through to that you're probably going to make more money there than anywhere else. Tuesday, Mega Man made a return, and we went over all of the new information, including the newly announced Mega Man 11 and the news that Mega Man X games will come back to all new consoles. Kantan Japan says, I'm going to be honest, that Mega Man trailer didn't look that great. Compared to the last 2D platformers I played, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze and Rayman Legends, Mega Man just looks basic. So here's the thing about the art style. I knew once I saw it, it was not going to appeal to everyone, right? I know there are people who don't really like the 2.5D and they would have rather seen something like hand-drawn visuals. However, the problem with that is it would have taken a lot longer, and there's more you can do kind of with generated visuals like that instead of having to draw everything. Or I guess maybe people wanted a more 2D look. Maybe they didn't want that straight up that straight up 2.5D where it looks kind of 3D but it's on 2D plane. There are people who just don't like that look. Maybe they would have liked the 32-bit visual aesthetic, right? I mean, we got the 8-bit visual with Mega Man 9 and 10. Maybe people would have rather Mega Man gone into something like the 32-bit look. I mean, like Mega Man 8, for example. A lot of people like that look. They maybe didn't like the voice acting or the necessarily game overall. But that seems to be that spot where people really like those visuals. I think the problem now, especially in this current generation, is it needs to at least look new. And by new, I mean that 2.5D, that 2.5D at least gives them that impression that it's not an old game, right? Because, well, this couldn't be done on the PS1 or the N64. You know, you need this newer hardware to do this kind of stuff. And I think that's why a lot of places are going towards that 2.5D look, well, with 2D games. Now, does it look a lot like Mighty Number 9? Yeah, it does. However, that always comes down to me, level design. So that's going to really be what makes or breaks Mega Man 11, how it controls, and the level design. I do think the visual style will take a back seat if those two parts are just really well done. Wednesday, it was revealed that Wii games such as Mario Galaxy will be making their way to the Nvidia Shield TV in China as an initiative to make the Shield line more interesting to consumers. While there was initial confusion as to whether these games will be running natively or not, it seems Nvidia has cleared this up, stating that these remasters in 1080p would be running natively on the Shield hardware. Mark Plott says, "This is a bold move. China will steal the games day one, then install them on clone/bootleg consoles." This is an interesting issue here, because I know there are a lot of people who are concerned that because it's running on Android, it can pretty much be ripped and you can pretty much put it on anything. So what I think will probably happen with Nvidia, because I'm sure Nintendo is there right next to them, like, this is what we need to do to make sure nobody gets this stuff. It probably has some sort of DRM built in, to be honest, so that you really can't play much offline, or there are checkpoints. I remember when Chrono Trigger came out on Android phones, and if you put something on Android, it comes out as an APK. Most of the time people will rip it from the store and put it on everything, and then you can just download it and play it. Chrono Trigger was an issue, though, because there were DRM check-in points where you would get so far, and then all of a sudden, I think the first time you went back in time, for example, it checked. It sent a signal to their servers to double check to make sure everything was legit, and then you would kind of go on from there. They had the benefit of being a cell phone based game, so of course that's always connected to the internet for the most part if you have service. But the thing about the Nvidia Shield TV is it might not necessarily be connected. So it's going to be kind of this give or take. I have a feeling they want you to have some kind of DRM attached to that so that it won't get ripped and then put on everything imaginable, but I'll have to see what happens. I mean, Android is very easy to do this kind of stuff too once you root it, but we'll see. If it has DRM, I think it'll be okay. Otherwise, yeah, there might be a problem there. Although I would like to start seeing some of these games make their way outside of China, and that would probably be the only way that'd be possible, is if it could be ripped from there. Thursday, we looked at Xenoblade 2 sales in Japan, showing the largest debut ever for a game in the Xenoblade series. Sony also made everyone aware that they can't sleep on the Switch, and are even worried that the Switch could cut into their market share and their customer base. You Said Wing says, "The thing that will be concerning Sony is maybe the realization that people just want to play good games and don't really care about visuals as much as they believe. Sega, Nintendo console war in the 90s was built around great games, whereas the Microsoft-Sony war at the moment is about visuals. Good games versus good-looking games." Now, I understand what you're saying here. However, Sony has good games. You're basically saying that Sony really was set up to basically go against the Xbox as a system that doesn't really have exclusive big, good titles, because a lot of them go to the PC as well. And while I really do think that has cut into the Xbox's overall sales, I don't think Sony is looking at this in the sense of, oh, we don't have the games to go up against Nintendo. They have the games to go up against Nintendo. Let's be realistic here. They have good games. It might not be for everyone, just like Nintendo games aren't for everybody, but they have exclusives that are legitimate. It's hard to argue that at this point. And I think the problem Sony is realizing right now is this isn't the same Nintendo from the Wii U days. This is a different Nintendo that is pretty much showing up, and they have normal hardware for the most part. It's ARM, but still, it's a very known chip. It's more known than the PS4 and the Xbox One chip when it first came out. So you're going to see a lot of stuff go to the Switch in terms of ports for what it can handle within reason. I mean, we see some games like Xenoblade drop down heavily in resolution in handheld mode, something I would hope would be patched. But going forward, you will see that. And then, of course, they will probably build on the hardware with upgraded units like a Switch Pro, I'm sure, or maybe they do somehow explore that dock situation we've talked about in the past. But right now, Sony, I think, from what they were saying, is the one advantage they have over Nintendo, heavy advantage, is their online service. And it sounds like that's what they want to push more going forward. They want to really develop that, the thing that wasn't there with the PS2 days, even though the PS3 days, which is their PlayStation Online network that has evolved so much to where they can get money out of their current users. They have a massive user base, 70 plus million at this point. So they want to monetize those 70 plus million online with the PlayStation Network. Look for things like an upgraded Game Pass, like what we have with Microsoft. Sony will probably get that, where they can download these games natively rather than stream them with PlayStation Now. I do think they'll continue to upgrade their PlayStation Now service since it works on PC. You don't need a PlayStation to play these games. You can play them right on your PC as long as you're connected to the internet. And then other things that I'm sure they'll do going forward. But right now, it will end up being Sony versus Nintendo in the next couple years. I do think Microsoft needs to get to the next generation. I think they know that they've pretty much conceded this one to Sony. They want the next one to start so they can start all over with more than likely some exclusives there. Finally, on Friday, we went over the Game Awards announcements that included Bayonetta 1 and 2 announced along with Bayonetta 3. Zelda Breath of the Wild won Game of the Year, while Horizon Zero Dawn was surprisingly snubbed at the Game Awards show. Fortunately, even if your favorite game didn't win, there were still some great announcements there for everyone. Jeremy Soronen says, Death Stranding looks like it will be a cool movie. When does it hit theaters? This is an odd opinion that I see a lot of people have. So, from what I could tell, there are gamers on two different sides here. There are some that really like the story, really like the cinematic feel of Death Stranding, and there are some that seem to think it's just a movie, and probably because they prefer gameplay. However, we haven't seen any gameplay yet, which is kind of the thing here, right? We haven't seen any gameplay. And I need to see gameplay before I can judge it as, I guess, the gameplay is bad or good. There are people who are already saying that the gameplay is going to be bad without seeing it. Like something like Metal Gear Solid 4. I actually really liked Metal Gear Solid 4, even though there were at times long, I'm talking like half an hour, 40-minute cutscenes here, guys. But I really liked that game because I love the story of Metal Gear Solid. I loved playing through it. Love Metal Gear Solid 2, for example. Same deal, so was the first one. 4 just took it to another level with cutscenes, but I do think Death Stranding is going to be cool. I'm, at this point, really interested how all of what we've seen has made sense. I just don't really think it's fair to call a game that focuses on story more than anything else a movie. Like, I wouldn't even call it Detroit, even though that's more of an interactive movie. An interactive movie, to me, is something more like the Telltale series. That would be an interactive movie. To me, not something where I actually control the character, complete objectives, and actually move around in a large open world. We don't even know what Death Stranding is at this point. Is it an open world? Is it like an actual like straight line, very linear? I don't know. Lobo Mihi says, Horizon Zero Dawn won the Nice Try Award. So here's the issue. I think what happened here, I think that's how this all went wrong for Horizon Zero Dawn at these Game Awards. While Horizon Zero Dawn across the board is a good game in pretty much all categories, and in some cases it's better than, say, like, alright, for example, Zelda doesn't have a better story than Horizon Zero Dawn. It just doesn't. I think most people can agree to that. But because Zelda's gameplay, to a lot of people, and the idea and the direction of the game that broke off so heavily from like older Zeldas, I think that was enough to push it over the edge for Game of the Year. And then if it went up against other games like we've seen, like Hellblade, and for like best voice actor and somebody who'd never even done this before, right? They're like marketing or developer. It was like, I guess I'll do the voice acting, and they end up winning. Really, at that point, it seems like Horizon Zero Dawn was good in all categories. Unfortunately, everything it went up against had a game that was better than it in that category. And I think that's really why it didn't seem to win anything. It's unfortunate because I think the game is good enough to at least win a few awards, but there were games that just did it better than Horizon Zero Dawn in every category it was nominated for. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for Newswave Week in Review. Thank you so much for joining me today. I always enjoyed going through your guys' comments. I have to read through quite a few of them to pick some out. So make sure you're always leaving comments because it's a lot of fun. As always, if you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button. If not, hit the thumbs down. And then definitely leave some comments down below as to what you think about this past week in gaming. And definitely join us tonight, guys, for Spawncast. We're going to have a lot of fun talking about definitely the Game Awards and probably Monster Hunter Worlds. I'm actually playing that right now. I actually stopped playing it to record, and then I gotta go play it after I'm done editing to try to get a video up, because I think some of you will be interested to see different things in it and really what it looks like on the PS4 Pro, because it has some cool options. So thanks guys for watching. I'll see you next time.